Imagine opening an ear of corn and seeing a rainbow. Not a row of yellow kernels, but glassy beads in turquoise, amber, purple, and jade. Can you imagine a watermelon with a night sky painted on its rind? Gone so completely that people started treating it like a myth. And a tomato so valuable it helped someone pay off a mortgage and then quietly disappeared from supermarket shelves. These aren't legends. They're real varieties still alive on the fringes of our food system. Let's start with that rainbow cob. Picture a cornfield at the end of summer. You pull back the husk on one ear, and instead of straight yellow rows, you see glass. Glass gem corn looks like someone glued beads onto a cob. Lilac, emerald, amber, deep blue, every kernel a different color, and every ear with its own pattern. It didn't come from a laboratory, but from an Oklahoma farmer, Carl Barnes, who spent years crossing old Native American corn varieties and saving seed from the most unusual ears. Over time, those choices added up to something that looked more like art than grain. Glass gem is a flint corn. It makes thick, sweet, nutty polenta and popcorn, but it needs around 110 days to mature, and every cob looks different. On a small field, that's part of the charm. On a processing line, it's a problem. Elevators, mills, and factories want grain that behaves the same every time. One variety, one moisture level, one color. A cob that looks different in every sack is hard to package, classify, and sell. That's why the industrial system never really adopted it. Glass gem found its place in seed catalogs, at seed swaps, and on small farms. In places where variation isn't a flaw, but the whole point. If a system can reject something as visually spectacular as glass gem, it's not hard to imagine what it does with a watermelon that looks like a painted sky. On the dark green rind of this watermelon, large yellow moons and tiny stars are scattered across the surface. Even the leaves are speckled, as if someone had sprayed them with light. Inside, the flesh is deep pink and dense, with seeds packed more tightly than in many modern melons. This is the Moon and Stars watermelon. In the 1920s, it appeared in catalogs as Sun, Moon, and Stars. People remembered it for how it looked and how it tasted. Intensely sweet, slightly floral, the kind of flavor that makes a supermarket melon taste like flavored water. But its priorities are different from modern fruit. It has a thinner rind, a more delicate, juicier flesh, and the fruits are not identical. In a garden or at a local market, that's no problem. The watermelon travels a short distance and disappears the same day. In long transport and cold storage, those same traits become weaknesses. Moon and Stars bruises more easily, cracks more quickly, and refuses to stack into perfectly even pyramids. When commercial growers began switching to varieties that ripen all at once, have smooth, spotless rinds, fit perfectly into crates, and can sit for weeks in a warehouse, Moon and Stars stopped ticking the boxes and simply disappeared from catalogs. It survived because a few people never stopped sowing it. In the 1980s, a Missouri gardener, Merle Van Doren, saw something through his car window that looked like a field of polka dots. The farmer who was growing it had been saving his own seed for generations. Van Doren took some of that seed to Seed Savers Exchange, and the variety slowly returned to catalogs, not as a mass-market product, but as proof that some lost foods are simply lost from the supermarket's field of view. With Glass Gem and Moon and Stars, the stakes were mostly appearance and flavor, but this story started many years earlier, with a mechanic who used a tomato to pay off his mortgage. Imagine a steep mountain road in West Virginia in the 1930s. Old cars and trucks crawl slowly uphill. Engines heat up, drivers press the gas, temperature needles move into the red. Halfway up, radiators start to blow. Right there stands a small workshop, a metal building, a simple sign, a few wrecks in the yard. It's run by Marshall Cletus Biles, known to everyone as Radiator Charlie. For years, he lives off that hill. Anyone who misjudges the slope ends up with an overheated engine and a broken radiator right where his shop is. Cars pull in, radiators land on the bench, a few dollars drop into his pocket. Then the Great Depression hits. People drive less. They postpone every repair they can. Traffic on the hill thins out, and so does his income. But the family still has to eat, and the bills still have to be paid. Behind the workshop, on the slope, Biles has a small garden. In the middle of the crisis, that patch of land becomes Plan B. He's not a professional plant breeder. He has a family to feed and a simple goal: to grow a tomato that can handle the conditions on his hillside and produce enough food that a few plants really make a difference in a crisis year. On the slope, he sets up a kind of field laboratory. He plants large, meaty varieties and over several seasons crosses them by hand using a baby ear syringe. Each year, he saves seed from the biggest, best-tasting fruits that coat best with the heat on his sun-baked yard. Eventually, he finds a combination that stands out. On the vines hang tomatoes that look like small watermelons. Huge, sometimes 3 to 4 pounds each. Thick-fleshed, sweet, low in acidity, with the flavor people call real tomato taste. Word about what he's managed to do first circles among neighbors and then starts to spread far beyond his hillside. Biles can see he doesn't have enough land to turn this into a field-scale crop, but he does have enough space to raise seedlings. He realizes these small plants might be worth more than the fruit themselves. Radiator Charlie begins selling seedlings of this variety for $1 each, a serious price in the middle of the Great Depression. But people still line up. They come from neighboring counties because they have heard about the man on the hill whose tomatoes can feed a family from just a few plants. The stretch of road where cars with blown radiators used to stop turns into a queue of vehicles waiting for seedlings. According to the story, over a few years he sells enough plants to pay off his mortgage. The variety gets a name that sounds like a joke, but describes exactly what it did. Mortgage lifter. Modern agriculture did what it was designed to do. It raised yields, stabilized supply, lowered prices, fed cities. The price is that everything too colorful, too fragile, too local, or too uneven gets quietly pushed off the default menu. Glass Gem, Moon and Stars, Mortgage Lifter, and dozens of other varieties haven't vanished. They simply live where the system doesn't really look. In seed catalogs, at small markets, in the gardens of people who like to ask what else exists beyond the supermarket shelf. If you never step out of that aisle, you may never notice they're there.